Yap. Oke. Eh, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih kehadirannya Pak Dr. Khairul Azhar di Zoom kita bersama dengan Departemen Arsitektur Universitas Brawijaya di sini ya. Terima kasih juga Bu Dr. Lisa Wulandari, Pak Dr. Susilo Kusdiwanggo, Bu Wasiska. Di sini ada Bu Emma Yunita Titisari juga ada di sini. Oh ini lagi kayaknya lagi ini lagi ini backgroundnya khusus ini kayaknya Bu Emma ini di setting backgroundnya itu bisa bergerak itu. Iya, oke.
Iya, takut
Eh,
soalnya.
Iya. Oke, terima kasih kehadirannya dan juga ada teman-teman, ada mahasiswa nanti akan ada lebih banyak lagi mahasiswa yang yang bergabung dengan kita, Pak Khairul di sini. Eh, ini menindaklanjuti dari kegiatan kita yang minggu kemarin. Jadi ini adalah tindak lanjut untuk implementasi pengembangan untuk program pengembangan di desain arsitektur kita yang terakhir yaitu desain arsitektur 6 di sini ya Pak. Eh, karena waktunya ini cukup pendek, nanti akan ada beberapa kegiatan. Mohon izin saya akan membacakan sedikit. Jadi nanti pertama kita akan ada sambutan dari nanti akan ada sambutan untuk membuka acara ini dari Bu Lisa selaku Kepala Departemen kami, dan nanti akan ada pengantar atau penjelasan terkait acara ini dari Pak Susilo Kusdiwanggo di sini. Nanti akan menjelaskan kegiatannya rangkaian. Ini ada beberapa rangkaian Bapak. Jadi ini tidak cuma kegiatan pada hari, tapi rangkaian selama 1 semester ini. Ya, terus nanti akan ada paparan dari Pak Dr. Khairul dan juga diskusi dan tanya jawab dari peserta di sini untuk materi pertama dan ada materi kedua di sini ya Pak. Jadi dilanjut 2 materi, habis itu juga kita akan ada diskusi kelanjutan, baru nanti kita akan kesimpulan di akhir acara pada siang hari nanti ya. Oke, sebelumnya kita terima kasih sudah menyempatkan hadir di sini 2 materi sekaligus Pak Khairul ya. Terus jadi nanti kayaknya harus jaga stamina ini di sini ya. Oke, oh ya sama nanti untuk teman-teman semuanya di sini. Sebelum kita memulai sesi pertama untuk paparan materi, kita nanti akan ada dokumentasi. Mungkin ini ya Pak Khairul, kita dokumentasi seperti biasanya kita akan setting satu sama nanti setting background kedua, nanti kita ganti sekalian ya, supaya nanti pada saat diskusi kita bisa berjalan dengan lancar. Seperti gitu. Yap. Oke, selanjutnya, oh sebelum kita mulai, alangkah lebih baik kita berdoa terlebih dahulu supaya acara pada pagi hari ini diberikan kelancaran, bermanfaat dan juga diberikan keberkahan selama berjalannya nanti. Oke, berdoa dipersilahkan. Berdoa selesai. Yap, acara selanjutnya adalah sambutan dari Bu Lisa selaku Kepala Departemen Arsitektur Universitas Brawijaya sekaligus nanti membuka acara ini. Ya, Bu Lisa.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Abraham Rija. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Senang
Waalaikumsalam.
sekali pagi hari ini ya, di hari Sabtu, eh, tanggal 9 Mei 2026, kita bisa hadir berkumpul di ruang virtual Departemen Arsitektur Fakultas Teknik Universitas Brawijaya dalam penyelenggaraan General Lecture ya. Dalam hal ini kami sangat mengapresiasi dan sangat berterima kasih atas kehadiran dari Dr. Khairul Azhar bin Mat Sulaiman sebagai narasumber kita untuk kegiatan 3 in 1 ini. Beliau adalah dosen dari Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Selamat pagi, Dr. Khairul. Terima kasih sudah berkenan hadir kembali di antara kami semua gitu ya. Karena beberapa waktu yang lalu Dr. Khairul telah menyapa kita semua, terutama dosen ya, dalam kegiatan workshop ya. Workshop kemarin tentang pengembangan akademik dan juga penyempurnaan RPS. Dan sekarang Dr. Khairul juga masih berkenan untuk membersamai kita dengan adik-adik mahasiswa dalam program 3-in-1 yang dilakukan oleh eh, Departemen Arsitektur ya. Dalam hal ini adik-adik mahasiswa khususnya dari mata kuliah Desain Arsitektur 6 gitu, dan kemarin diharapkan adik-adik mahasiswa S2 pun bisa hadir di sini. Dan mungkin kalau ada juga mahasiswa dari UKM ini, alhamdulillah kita semakin ramai sekali di sini pagi-pagi belajar bersama gitu ya. Dan ini saya lihat materinya luar biasa menarik ya. Jadi ada materi pertama ini terkait dengan kulit manusia, kulit bangunan, pengalaman Inderawi material selubung tropis. Wah, ini dari judulnya udah kelihatan ini harusnya kita semua jadi penasaran sekali apa sih yang mau dibahas gitu ya. Ilmu apa yang akan diberikan oleh Dr. Khairul di sini dan nanti akan kita bisa diskusikan bersama gitu ya. Dan terkait dengan materi kedua ini juga tidak kalah menariknya ya, membaca panas dengan tubuh ya, fenomenologi termal dan keputusan desain pasif. Luar biasa. Ya, untuk semua yang hadir di sini, terima kasih Bapak Susilo selaku Pramakarsa ya. Kemudian di sini saya lihat juga ada Bu Emma selaku Kaprodi S1 ya. Pak Abraham Rijal sebagai moderator yang akan menjadi motor untuk serunya kegiatan kita hari ini gitu. Ada Bu Wasiska dan dosen-dosen yang lain dan terutama adik-adik mahasiswa yang saya banggakan. Ya, baik. Kita tahu bahwa kegiatan 3-in-1 ini menjadi kegiatan yang rutin kita lakukan selama beberapa tahun ini. Ya, 3-in-1 ini merupakan salah satu wujud ya dari program internasionalisasi yang dilakukan oleh Departemen Arsitektur dengan dukungan dari Fakultas Teknik, bahwa setiap semester kita selalu memiliki program 3-in-1 ini, yaitu dalam satu mata kuliah akan diajar oleh beberapa dosen ya, ada dosen dari internal UB, kemudian guest lecture dari luar negeri, dan juga praktisi. Nah, ini diharapkan bahwa wawasan mahasiswa ini akan semakin berkembang ya, bukan hanya akan mendapatkan trigger dari dosen internal Departemen Arsitektur, tetapi juga mulai memperluas jejaring gitu ya, mengetahui bahwa di luar sana ada apa profesor atau doktor dari luar negeri yang berkenan untuk share knowledge, memberikan ilmu pengalamannya kepada adik-adik mahasiswa gitu ya. Praktisi juga kita libatkan supaya mahasiswa ini juga memiliki pengembangan wawasan terkait dengan praktek arsitek di dunia kerja seperti itu. Jadi ini pastinya akan sangat-sangat bermanfaat gitu. Jadi sekali lagi terima kasih untuk semuanya. Semoga kegiatan ini berjalan dengan lancar, memberikan manfaat yang seluas-luasnya gitu, dan semoga kita semua yang hadir di sini menjalani program ini akan dicatat sebagai ibadah yang akan membawa kebaikan untuk kita semua. Saya rasa cukup dari saya. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya, terima kasih Bu Lisa atas sambutan sekaligus membuka acara ini. Ya, semoga acara pada pagi hari ini memang beri berkah dan juga pahala bagi kita semua. Ya, karena manfaat dari acara ini yang nanti akan bisa kita rasakan dampaknya, nggak cuma pada hari ini, tapi juga nanti berikut-berikutnya. Ya, selanjutnya apa namanya? Pak Susilo selaku pemrakarsa acara ini bisa memberikan sambutan, eh, nanti memberikan gambaran, karena rangkaian acara ini nggak cuma berhenti pada hari ini, ya mungkin Pak Susilo bisa memberikan gambaran ke depannya bagaimana. Monggo Pak.
Ya, baik, terima kasih Pak Rizal. Ini sebelum saya memulai, sebenarnya bukan sambutan ya, sambutannya sudah dengan Bu Lisa, jadi sudah selesai. Jadi sekarang kita masuk kepada materi sebenarnya. Cuman saya mencoba untuk memberikan pengantar nanti kepada yang hadir di sini. Dan terima kasih tadi Bu Lisa sudah memberikan sambutan. Hari ini Bu Lisa padat sekali, jadi habis dari sambutan ke sini mungkin langsung langsung ke lokasi ya Bu, ke lokasinya atau di lantai 3 gitu.
Di lab
Wah,
terpadu
oh,
benar.
lab terpadu, nggih. Nggih, matur suwun sekali. Jadi mungkin ini saya akan tahu Bu Emma ada di kampus apa di mana gitu. Kalau Bu Dani mungkin ada di sana kali. Oke, baik, terima kasih Pak Rizal. Sekali lagi saya akan menyampaikan prolog saja terkait dengan kegiatan kita. Jadi kalau melihat dari judul yang tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Bu Bu Lisa yang sudah disebutkan tadi di depan bahwa judul-judul kita itu memang mungkin dikatakan fenomenolog gitu ya, karena memang kita ada di DA6. Nah, di dalam kesempatan ini, DA6 itu adalah desain arsitektur Pak Khairul. Jadi kita menyingkatnya menjadi DA6. Jadi kalau di UGM kemarin itu namanya adalah architectural design gitu ya. Jadi AD kalau di sana mungkin di sini dibalik menjadi DA. Nah, di program kita kali ini di 3 in 1 itu kita mengambil judul yang mungkin kalau teman-teman ada satu teman yang mengatakan wah ini sudah fenomenal sekali dari judulnya. Jadi program kita itu adalah program 3 in 1 kita itu adalah dari yang dirasakan ke yang dirancang, menghidupi fenomenologi sebagai metode desain arsitektur. Nah, itu judul program kita kali ini. Jadi program 3 in 1 memang merupakan bentuk kerjasama antar institusi perguruan tinggi lokal, institusi perguruan tinggi luar negeri, dan praktisi. Jadi nanti akan ada praktisi dalam menyelenggarakan kegiatan perkuliahan secara bersama-sama. Nah, selain perkuliahan, kegiatan akademik yang dilakukan bersama itu meliputi adalah workshop. Kemarin kita sudah FGD, gitu ya, FGD. Kemudian untuk penguatan program studi serta pengembangan jejaring kerjasama untuk publikasi internasional. Mudah-mudahan nanti kita bisa lanjut ke sana ya Pak Khairul. Kemudian kerjasama di ranah akademik melalui program T-in-1 ini diharapkan memberikan dampak secara luas dalam hal perluasan wawasan, peningkatan keterampilan dan pengetahuan ini terutama ya mahasiswa maupun dosen. Nah, sejalan dengan pembaruan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi sesuai dengan perkembangan dunia baik dunia akademik ataupun dunia kerja pada saat ini. Nah, program 3 in 1 ini juga bertujuan untuk mengakselerasi pemeringkatan Universitas Brawijaya di kancah internasional. Jadi, kalau seandainya kami menghubungi Pak Khairul lagi terkait dengan proses pemeringkatan itu, mohon jangan bosan ya Pak Khairul, yang nantinya akan secara konsisten akan terus diupayakan dari tahun ke tahun ya untuk pemeringkatan UB. Nah, program studi sarjana arsitektur Departemen Arsitektur Fakultas Teknik Universitas Brawijaya mengusulkan penyelenggaraan kegiatan visiting profesor dan praktisi mengajar. Jadi nanti ada Pak Khairul juga ada Pak Mamok yang sebagai praktisi mengajar melalui program 3 in 1 pada semester genap ini di 2025 dan 2026. Program ini tentu saja melibatkan pakar dari luar negeri dan praktisi dari dalam negeri yang keduanya memiliki reputasi internasional dengan sasaran utama ini khusus kepada adik-adik mahasiswa yang ada di desain arsitektur 6. Ya, khusus memang ini dirancang untuk DA6. Sebagai DA6 atau desain arsitektur adalah sebagai mata kuliah penciri ya, jadi dia menjadi backbone gitu ya dari program studi sarjana arsitektur sekaligus sebagai arena pembentukan kompetensi desain yang komprehensif bagi mahasiswa tingkat akhir yang tadi juga sudah disebutkan oleh Pak Rizal. Nah, di dalam desain arsitektur 6 ini menempatkan fenomenologi sebagai pendekatan utama dalam proses belajar dan berkarya desain. Makanya judulnya mungkin beberapa teman, beberapa orang menyebut bahwa oh ini sangat fenom sekali gitu. Karena kita memang menggunakan atau menempatkan fenomenologi sebagai pendekatan utama dalam eh, proses belajar mengajar kita. Nah, mahasiswa tidak lagi dituntut sekedar menghasilkan objek arsitektur yang memanjakan mata, ya, karena selama ini kan secara kita menggunakan secara visual, tetapi melainkan merancang ruang yang memiliki jiwa. Nah, ini mungkin spirit of place gitu ya, ruang yang dihayati oleh tubuh, dirasakan oleh seluruh indera, dan memancarkan atmosfer yang spesifik sekaligus bermakna. Nah, fondasi pemikiran ini berpijak pada kali ini di semester ini berpijak pada tiga maestro fenomenologi arsitektur yang kita gagas dari awal, yaitu Yuani Palasma yang mengkritik dominasi visual dan mengajak kembali kepada pengalaman multisensori. Kemudian Stephen Hall yang mengembangkan metode tentang interweaving dan teman-teman menyebut seringkali menggunakannya dengan konteks paralaks ya, menjalin ide abstrak dengan fenomena fisik ada seperti cahaya, gerak, tekstur gitu ya. Lalu kemudian yang terakhir adalah dengan menggunakan Peter Zumthor yang merumuskan elemen-elemen konkret pembentuk atmosfer ruang ya, baik itu suhu, suara, material, ambang yang nantinya akan membangun atmosfer. ketiga pemikiran itu yang lalu kemudian tidak kita pelajari secara terpisah, tapi kita jadikan satu, lalu kemudian dioperasionalkan secara terpadu dalam beberapa modul studio. Ya, kita ada modul 00 sampai dengan modul 04. Nah, dalam kerangka tersebut, pertanyaan mendasar yang sering dihadapi mahasiswa adalah bukan tentang bagaimana bangunan itu terlihat, ya, tetapi tentang bagaimana bangunan itu bisa dirasakan. Nah, inilah inti dari kegiatan ini dengan judul yang tadi sudah saya sebutkan, yaitu dari yang dirasakan ke yang dirancang. Menghidupi fenomenologi sebagai metode desain arsitektur. Yang untuk memperkaya dan memperdalam pencapaian pembelajaran tersebut, maka kami mengundang dua figur dengan kompetensi yang saling melengkapi itu ya. Yang satu dari ranah akademik dan satu lagi dari ranah profesional. Nah, dari ranah akademik, kami mengundang Bapak Dr. Khairul Azhar bin Mat Sulaiman dari Jabatan Seni Bina dan Alam Bina. Benar ya, Pak ya? Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia UKM. Nah, ini hadir sebagai visiting profesor kami. Kepakarannya dalam prestasi terma bangunan, keselarasan terma, sistem penghijauan, istilahnya apa? Penghadang sinar matahari menjadikan mitra akademik yang sebenarnya sangat ideal untuk D6 gitu ya. Em, dalam menghadirkan perspektif akademik ini, jadi beliau banyak sekali riset-risetnya ya, riset tentang sensori stimuli di ruang publik ya, untuk mempertegas bahwa kenyamanan Inderawi adalah fondasi desain yang dapat diberikan. Perspektif akademik internasional dan praktek arsitektur yang nanti akan kita selenggarakan dengan Pak Mamo itu berbasis pengalaman ya secara bersama-sama nanti. Nah, program 3-in-1 ini diharapkan tidak hanya memperkaya proses pembelajaran mahasiswa DA6, tetapi juga membuka peluang kolaborasi riset dan publikasi internasional. Nah, ini mohon nanti Pak Khairul bisa nanti kita akan terus ke sana gitu ya, menjalin kolaborasi riset dan publikasi internasional antara arsitektur Universitas Brawijaya dengan Universiti Arsitektur, Arsitektur, Seni Bina dan Alam Bina, Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia ya, sekaligus memperkuat posisi arsitektur UB dalam peta internasional pendidikan arsitektur di Asia Tenggara ya. Insya Allah nanti juga dunia, barangkali begitu harapannya. Kira-kira itu yang bisa saya berikan terkait dengan gambaran program kita kali ini. Nanti untuk yang materi ketiga dan keempat saya tidak perlu menyampaikan ini, saya perlu menyampaikannya di depan saja. Jadi nanti Pak Riza langsung masuk kepada materi. Ya, saya rasa itu. Terima kasih. Mudah-mudahan bisa diterima dengan baik, mudah-mudahan bisa dipahami bahwa ini adalah merupakan kegiatan yang tadi saya sampaikan adalah merupakan bagian atau garis besar dari program 3-in-1 kita yang ada di DA6, dari yang dirasakan ke yang dirancang, menghidupi fenomenologi sebagai metode desain arsitektur. Demikian dari saya, matur nuwun, saya kembalikan lagi ke Pak Rizal. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Susilo. Dari yang dirasakan ke yang dirancang. Yap, oke. Jadi memang di sini kita tugasnya merancang ya. Kita merancang dan juga merasakan di sini karena apa yang dirancang nanti akan dirasakan juga oleh orang lain. Yap. Eh, oke. Selanjutnya kita akan masuk ke sesi dokumentasi. Ya, Pak. Dokumentasi terlebih dahulu. Saya minta kepada semua peserta bisa on cam dahulu. Jadi yang pertama ini kita dokumentasi. Slide kedua, satu, dua, sama. Ya, oke. Silakan Pak Dr. Khairul. Untuk materi kita.
Alright. Okey. Kalau saya rasa mungkin apa ya, slide ini memang berturutan kan, ataunya bersambung ya. Tapi cuma saya pun tak pasti sama ada berbeza atau enggak. Tapi kita lihat saja ya, insya-Allah. Alright. So saya akan share screen-nya. Okey, semua sudah nampak ya?
Sudah, Pak.
Alright, okay. So we continue to the next presentation from the previous lecture. So if earlier we discussed on material and atmosphere, so but this lecture we focus on thermal comfort, but not as a numbers, but as experience. As I said, this is kind of like very new to me, because when I presented all related to my comfort, normally I will talk more on the numbers and figures and so on. This way, this presentation, we do experience. Probably we will explain thermal comfort through mostly on the experience side. Okay. So basically, how does the body actually feel space? So this is what we try to deliver on this particular presentation. Okay. So as thermal comfort, is thermal comfort a number or a feeling? Yeah. So when we talk about thermal comfort, we usually refer to temperature, humidity, and airflow. But the real question is, do these numbers reflect what we actually feel? We often define comfort using data, but the body experience something more complex. So as I shared this photo previously in the first images, yeah, first presentation, sorry. So these two spaces have the same temperature, but feel completely different. So comfort is not only numerical. Yeah. So if you can see from the above photos and image or photos, yeah, compared to the bottom, so you can feel. I think from the image itself, you can feel how much the second or the bottom images is actually give more different feeling, yeah, compared to the first one. The first one feel more stuffy, feel hot, feel probably not or we can say uncomfortable at all. But the bottom one we feel more airy, breezy, and also more calm and so on. So that is the experience or the feeling that we want to create, and actually not just talk about temperature, but we talk about the experience. Okay. So the problem is actually not the problem, yeah. So the standard approach that we have from the data, thermal comfort normally always relate to data. So we measure about the air temperature, we measure on the humidity, we measure what is the air velocity, and what is the mean radiant temperature. Mean radiant temperature basically is a heat that you receive from the all objects around you. Yeah? So basically when we talk about a building, so where you receive from the opening, from the wall, from the ceiling, from the floor itself. Yeah? So that is the mean radiant temperature. And the two things that is actually from the user, where the clothing, yeah, what you wear, and also your metabolism or the activity that you conducted before or the time, I mean during the measurement being done. So that is the data that we have, and often is related to the thermal comfort. Okay, so in most that is the conventional approach. Thermal comfort is defined through measurable data. So typically we look at temperature parameters such as air temperature, humidity, air velocity, and what I already mentioned. So from this variable we derive comfort index. In this is indices that I mentioned here, where from the heat balance approach, where I believe all of you have come across this one, PMV, yeah, predicted mean vote, or maybe from the adaptive approach, where ASHRAE 55 adaptive model, or EN 167798 adaptive comfort model, yeah, and also standard effective temperature. So all this model basically to tell you what or the index that you use to resemble or to show the thermal comfort. Yeah. One of the most widely used is PMV, predicted mean vote. So this model is based on the heat balance of the human body. It predicts how large a group of people would rate a space on a scale from cool to hot. Yeah? So that is the scale that they use. So PMV assume a control environment, typically air-conditioned building. So that normally PMV more more associated to the air-conditioned building. Okay, so where temperature, humidity, clothing activity level are relatively stable. So because it's a controlled environment. Okay, so it is useful in mechanical system, but less flexible in real or live environment, as what we normally, I think we maybe some of you use most of the time in the air conditioning space. So PMV can translate your thermal comfort. But if you are more on the natural setting or using natural ventilation, I think PMV is not appropriate or not so suitable to be used or to represent your thermal comfort. So we have to have a adaptive model. So in naturally ventilated building, especially in tropical climate, we often use an adaptive comfort model instead. So this model recognizes the people adapt to their environment. For example, standard light ASHRAE 55 adaptive model and also EN adaptive comfort model define comfort range based on outdoor running mean temperature. So they can feel comfortable at higher temperature compared to the standard PMV prediction. So the adaptive model is often based on outdoor running mean temperature, meaning comfort depends on recent climatic condition. So this mean comfort is not fixed, it's changed depending on climate and what people are used to. In tropical region, the adaptive model is generally more appropriate compared to PMV. So because buildings are often naturally ventilated and occupants are more tolerant to temperature variation, so several field studies have shown that occupants can accept higher indoor temperature, sometimes up to 28 or even 30 degrees, especially when there is sufficient air movement, because people adapt through clothing, behavior, and expectation. Okay. In addition, in this set or standard effective temperature, take into account air velocity and humidity, so to represent better how body actually feel heat. So in the two that we have more before, which is adaptive model ASHRAE and N, that is only referring to the outdoor climax ataupun apa ni, on the variation of the temperature, outdoor temperature, outdoor mean running mean temperature. But set they include the air velocity, they include the humidity, which is actually represent better when we talk about the body or how does the body feel heat. So this become especially relevant in the hybrid environment. Hybrid meaning that when natural ventilation combined with fan. In the space of like Earth, if I can say, to have a comfortable temperature, comfortable thermal environment, we do need a little assist from the mechanical or active way, which is we need at least a ceiling fan. I mean, or maybe a fan. It doesn't have to be ceiling fan, but any fan, because without that, you don't feel the air movement. Because when we talk about thermal comfort, it's not just a temperature, but it's also how the air moves. The air movement is very important. So when you have that, then you will feel more comfortable. So remember, whenever you design a space, if you mention that it is naturally ventilated, so you need at least to have or get it or help from the fan. Because then only you will feel comfortable due to the air movement. Okay. So because with the increased air movement, people can feel comfortable even at higher temperature. So comfort is not only about lowering temperature, but also about how the body experience heat. And so so while this or index are useful, this still simplify comfort into a general prediction. The real experience is more complex. It depends on movement, space, and the body. And this leads us to the next idea, the body itself as an instrument. Okay, so body is the instrument. So in the previous slide, we talked about data, temperature, humidity, and indices like PMV and adaptive model. But now I want to shift the perspective, because in reality, we don't experience comfort as numbers. We experience it through the body. Okay, so our skin feels temperature, our body senses air movement, whether the space is still, or breezy, and our perception combine all of these things into a feeling, comfortable or uncomfortable. Okay. For example, a space with higher temperature can still feel comfortable if there is air movement. And this is something you cannot fully understand through numbers alone, but you can immediately feel with your body. Okay. So this is why in this set, try to capture this idea. Not just temperature, but how temperature is actually felt. So, but even then, the body remain the most direct instrument. So that's why in your studio work, you describe space as panas, lembab, pengan, the word is pengan, or berangin. You are already use your body as your as instrument, and this is not subjective noise. That is a very valuable design information. So instead of asking what is the temperature, we need to ask what does the body feel? So that is the right question instead of what is the temperature. And think about what the last space you are in. Did you feel still air or moving air? So that is the different in architecture. That different is architecture. Yeah, and this is why comfort is not only measured, but it is experienced. Yeah, all right. So you can see the body is the first sensor of architecture. So as sorry that I share one of your colleague works. Yeah, thank you. I think because this is what I try to understand your assignment. So this is I try to relate with the presentation. I hope that my presentation, my lecture, will help you to make decision for your design. Okay. So you started with thermal mapping as a live experience, or in this context you use a peta intensitas sensoric. Yeah. So after you understand the body is the instrument, the next question is how do you record what the body feels? So I believe you already done this. This is where thermal mapping becomes important. Thermal mapping is not just about measuring temperature. It is about mapping experience, where a space feels hot, where it feels shaded, where it moves, and where it becomes still. All right. So in your studio work, when you describe area as panas, lembab, berangin, and so on, you are already doing thermal mapping. You are translating bodily experience into a spatial understanding. So this mapping is not uniform, even within one space. Different zones can feel completely different. Near the wall, you already have a different experience. near the opening, different experience, under shade, different experience, exposed to the sun also, you record as a different experience. So thermal mapping reveal that comfort is not evenly distributed. It is a spatial. Yeah. So it changes across the environment. And once we understand this pattern, we can begin to design not by guessing, not just simply, okay, the space want to be like this and so on, but you respond to the real experience. Okay, so I believe that is the process that you already conducted. You've been through this process, and I think it's a very, very good work where you can see and you experience yourself firsthand on the site. Even though it's a bulan puasa, kalau saya baca daripada ni, you conducted during the bulan puasa, even though you might not done fully forest bathing, but it is still, you recorded certain experience on the site. So that is a good, a good data that you have here. Yeah? So we can have a plan, drawing show spaces, but thermal map is actually showing the experience. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. Uh-oh. Okay, I think I need to restart this. Sorry. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So now, once we map thermal experience, we begin to see something very important. A space is never thermally uniform. Even within a single room or courtyard, there are multiple micro conditions. Yeah? Area exposed to direct sunlight feel hot. Area under shade feel cooler. Near opening we feel effluent, but enclosure corners air becomes still, or we don't feel any air movement at all. Right? So as we move through space, our body continuously experience these changes. This is not something we calculate. It is something we feel immediately. All right. So comfort is not a fixed condition. It is a spatial experience. In your mapping, you already identified these zones. Your question now is, what do you do with this knowledge? Mapping is not a final output. It's just the beginning of your design process. So every sensory finding is actually a design opportunity. If a space feels hot, we introduce shading. If it is feels still and uncomfortable, we create ventilation. If glare is too strong, we filter light. So these solutions are not abstract. Yeah? They are material decision. Screen, wall, vegetation, opening, and so on and so forth. For those act as a filter, or probably as a element for our architecture. So you are not solving problem. You are not solving problem. You are shaping experience. Yeah. Okay. So your analysis should not stop at description. Yeah. But I hope that is also what we have a problem with our student. You have done a tremendous work when come to the plotting or collecting data. Right? You've done the synthesis, but unfortunately, it stopped there. But I hope that whatever that you have, you already collected, don't stop there. Make it is something that clear to the direction or to your decision, to your architectural decision. Yeah. So make sure all that data can be translated to the decision on creating the uh, experience or ambience or environment, yeah, or or atmosphere. Okay, so at the end, what we want you to see from there is actually your drawing describe experience. Your design must produce it. Okay. So okay, sorry, this is the one because you mentioned here, yeah. So we have that. You mentioned about your experience, and then we see the design response, how we can create that. Okay. So don't stop just up to this, but use all this experience to make the decision, design a decision. Okay. So now we move to design strategy. Yeah. Passive design means we use architecture itself for material and spatial environment. Why passive design? As I mentioned, because we try to design in the with the climatic of tropical, yeah, climatic condition of tropical, and then we want it to design with the passive approach for better thermal environment, not really heavily depending on the mechanical or active way design solution. Yeah. So if you have a passive design, so meaning that you not only contribute to the thermal environment, but also on the energy efficiency. Okay. So passive design means we use architecture itself from form, material, and spatial arrangement to respond to climate, not by adding machine, as I mentioned previously, but by shaping how heat, light, and air behave. Yeah. So most importantly, how the body experience them. Okay. So the first strategy is to reduce heat before it enters the building. In tropical climate, the roof receives the highest solar radiation. Yeah? So it depends on the how many. If you are doing a low rise, or probably a three or two, three lantai, apa itu floors, yeah, floors, meaning that a roof becoming the most important thing that you need to cater, yeah, for the thermal comfort purposes. Yeah. But if you have a taller building, then that is where you need to consider on the wall itself. All right. But in this in tropical, this is the most important thing, which is we have to reduce heat before it enters. Now, this lecture is specifically talking about thermal environment or thermal comfort. Yeah. So that's why I focus on the how to improve or how to reduce the heat before enter or probably heat transfer towards indoor environment. Okay. So roof is the most critical. So whether the design that you can do is through insulation, double roof system, or ventilated layers, that actually can help a lot in terms of releasing heat. At the same time, maybe also the selection of material, colors, yeah, on the roof itself, or reflective, that also contribute to the thermal environment on the indoor environment. Okay. On top of that, the roof also, on top of roof is the biggest contribute to the thermal environment. I think you also can use a volume of the space in order to reduce the impact from the roof towards the human body. Okay. So beside that, orientation also matters. By controlling how the building face to the sun, we reduce unwanted heat gain. Okay. So in the context of tropical, yes, I do believe everyone know that east and west actually or west can have a very high intensity in terms of solar radiation. Yeah. But in order for you to get comfortably throughout a days, yeah, not only the night time, yeah, but also during the daytime, I think you need also to cater on the east side, yeah, because when east side is already received high intensity, even though solar radiation is not really high during the daytime, I mean morning time, but it's still a continuous solar radiation, yeah, from the morning. So therefore, that you can see from the morning itself, you already started to use mechanical assist, especially air conditioning. Therefore, at the end, it will increase the energy usage. So try to think if you want to do, if you need to design to the east facade, so try to find a way that how you can block or reduce penetration from the solar radiation at the east, and also definitely on the west. So the orientation on design, due to the orientation design also, you have to see try not to have a much facade on the east and west. I mean the amount of space, amount of area of the wall east and west. Yeah? You can do it in the elongated ways where north and south can be long or have a larger area. All right, but if you are low, still a roof, the one receive the highest solar transfer or heat transfer to interior space. Okay. So by adding a shading device, it actually helps filter direct radiation before it reach to the interior. Okay, so again, we are not blocking climate, we are transforming it. So the other important parameter that you need to consider when designing for the purpose of thermal comfort and for the purpose of in the context of tropical climate, which is to design for air movement. Okay, so this is the airflow. Yeah, you want to create the airflow, air movement. Okay, in tropical environment, air movement is often more important than lowering temperature. Yeah, so that's why as what we said that heat actually contribute to the higher temperature and so on. But we in tropical, as I mentioned previously, because we already adapt to the condition of higher temperature, we can be in the space if it is high temperature with I mean but need to make sure with the air movement. Without the air movement, I don't think you also can stay in that particular space. So air movement is very important. So how to create that? We need to do design such as you have to consider of cross ventilation, where allow air to move across the body. Yeah. So either you want to design yes, why we across to the body, because that is where you feel the air movement. So when you have you feel that, then you will feel it's comfortable. So that means the opening that you want to design, you have to make sure that where the space I mean that particular space where you actually, what is the activity of that? Let's say if the activity is actually sitting, yeah, that is where most of the time you are you sit, yeah. So the air movement should be pass through, or you feel through, you can feel when you are sitting. So meaning that the opening should consider cannot be high, yeah, cannot be high. You should consider maybe full height of window, maybe full height of window, so therefore you can feel the breeze or the airflow actually can cross to the particular space that you are designing. So on top of that, you also can design with a step effect where helps reduce or probably to make sure that hot air rise and escape through the step effect function. Permeable space facade or ventilated facade, you can see here, allow continuous airflow. Okay. And even simple intervention like ceiling fan can significantly improve comfort. Okay, as I mentioned to you previously, I said whatever you try to design, it is better with because of privacy, because of safety and so on. You also need to close window and so on. So then you need to have a ceiling fan at least. Yeah. So then it can significantly improve comfort. And this is where concept like set in this that we discussed become relevant, because airflow change how temperature is perceived. So comfort is not about only degrees, it is about movement, air movement. Okay, the third strategy is spatial and material design. Yeah? So design that you consider of a courtyard, create microclimates. Okay, courtyard is considered one of the best, probably one of the best way when you have a elongated design. So you break the design to create a courtyard. Then the courtyard itself can be a place where to have air changing, air changes. At the same time, courtyard also create if your design of courtyard with the greenery and so on. So this is where the evapotranspiration, where the air cooling or cooler breeze air is you get from the plants or the trees or vegetation. So then it can cooler surrounding environments. So that's why courtyard, hopefully when you can have a space, you can consider that as part of your design. Okay, because I think that is also probably one of the, if you can see a lot of good design, actually they implement that in order to have a naturally ventilated building. Okay, this approach. So shaded, ventilated are often cooler than the surrounding. So because of the courtyard. Vertical greenery also reduce heat and improve air quality. Yes, this is where my expertise in particular. But I don't share my because I said I don't want to show numbers, but yes, vertical greenery do have impact in terms of thermal environment. So they reduce or they provide a better thermal environment. They significantly improve in terms of temperature, into the indoor environment. So, but on top of that, that's not the only vertical greenery helps. It's actually also produced a good or high quality or air, how is it? Indoor air quality, provide a better or improve the indoor air quality. And then we have a layered facade, such as screen and double skin, filter light and heat before entering the space. So this is all the design approach that you can implement. Material selection also play a role. Material selection meaning that you understand from the thermal mass, on the thermal conductivity of the material, what is U value, R value, and OTV and whatnot. So there's so many calculations that you can implement, can do when you talk about the material. But you need to find a way that the selection of material that if possible is not material is not the one that is store heat. So or probably also you can find a material that release it quickly. That is a thermal mass, meaning that if you have a higher thermal mass, meaning that it's going to store heat more. But when you have a low thermal mass, then it releases quickly. So timber is one of the good option in terms of, but of course timber is quite expensive and so on. But maybe the others material that you can consider, which is such as this ventilated facade here, because it's allowed for the air movement. Therefore, it's always bring the hot air or the stagnant air to be escaped from your building. Okay. So even the geometry, as you show, as I show here, with the slanted wall here. So, or recessed surface, yeah, recessed surface also good, where it also can reduce in terms of direct towards solar exposure. Yeah. So when you start designing with creatively, I know this is a facade. When you create a facade with the purpose of thermal, a better thermal environment, so you can get also very significant or create a interesting building when you want to see as the outlook. Yeah. So this is all strategies actually not just for the performance but also for the experience. So from strategy to experience, this is that you need to remember. The strategy is not just technical solution. Shape become comfort, airflow become relief, material becomes a sensation, and sequence become atmosphere. Yeah. So this strategy, what we have, yeah, when we talk about thermal environment, we talk what kind of method that we can apply. Method meaning that material and also the solution, design solution. Yeah. So we want it to create the experience at the end of the day. Okay. So passive design is not only about performance, but this is how the space is felt. All right. How you feel the space itself. So just to share a case study of tropical architecture as an experience. Yeah, I know this is how we can see, but I just pick a few, and in fact, I'm not going to elaborate very detailed, but just to share a little bit on how works. Like as I said, Indonesian architect have done such a tremendous work, very good exemplimentary for you to refer, yeah, or your president like Andra Martin and Adi Purnomo, I think one of the other practice in your class. You guys are lucky to have a Pak Adi Purnomo, yeah, as your practice in this class, because I when I saw his work, most of his work is actually already implement the approach on giving the good thermal environment and without sacrifice the experience that he want to create. So that is very good. That you are lucky actually to get apa orang cakap tu hands-on experience from him, yeah, first hand. Okay, so in this project, kalau kita tengok both of them, is work closely with climates, material, and spatial experience. So in this project, we can see how shading is used to reduce direct heat gain. Instead of solid wall, they often use a layered facade, screen, perforation, yeah, as or secondary skin to filter light and allow airflow. Okay, I know some of the, as like IH resident here, the image that I share here is actually what makes interesting, because he used, even though it's flat is not so called I mean not well, not good responsive to the environment, to the tropical climate. But the good idea of his actually, you have to see as overall design, not as specific one, or you making direct judgment, oh, it's a flat roof. But the way he is designed is actually the flat roof itself, it is a very wide overhang. Yeah, the roof itself very wide, and that wide is actually providing angle or shaded spaces towards the elevation or the wall itself. So therefore, it's being shading all the time. So if it's shading all the time, meaning that it is comfortable all the time, without sacrifice the 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 quality of daylight or the quality of the experience that you want. So he provided glasses, even though he used glasses, but because to the view that you want to have, but at the same time, uh, you get the daylighting freely. Yeah. So this is kind of like very intelligent in term of how he deal with the climate. Yeah. Okay. So that is work from Andra Martin. Yeah. But in example of Adiponowo, yeah, I think also have a lot of example. I just pick a few of his work actually. All right. So in terms of air movement, yeah, air movement here is actually carefully designed, opening a positioning or position to allow cross ventilation, yeah, or maybe stack effect itself, yeah, create a continuous flow of air through the space. So this direct improve thermal comfort. So you can see all opening have been used, but of course when you might say, oh, but they use a glass. But of course, as I said, they are very intelligent designer, architect. So they know what is their context. So they know how they can resolve still video, even though using glass, but the way he treat the glass with the opening, with the overhang, with the surrounding landscape and so on. So therefore, it is actually already contribute to the thermal comfort itself. So not saying you cannot use glass, but you have to make sure the way you design it with glass must have a better, must have a other supporting elements such as a shading device and also the environment, especially on the landscaping. Okay, so the use of courtyard and semi-open spaces, yeah. So using the vertical greenery and so on, so it create microclimates. Area that are cooler, shaded, and more breathable. So these are spaces where people naturally want to stay longer. Okay, so when we see here is not just environmental performance. What we see how architecture create experience. Shade become comfort, airflow become release, and material become something we feel with the body. Okay, so this is exactly what you are trying to do in your studio. But the question is, how do you translate your mapping into your strategy like this? So you have to make sure that all the data that you collected, you already synthesized, and now how you want to do it with the wise or probably the right decision, the best decision, yeah, the best decision to make sure that you can create this kind of experience. Okay. So good tropical architecture does not fight with climate, but it works with it to create experience. Okay, so the key message, if there is one key message from this lecture, is we do not design temperature. We design how temperature is experienced. Material transform climate into human experience. Okay. Through material, shading, airflow, and spatial enrichment, climate is transformed into something the body can feel. So architecture is not just about controlling the environment. It is about shaping experience. So final reflection, before we end, I want to leave you with one question about not about the form, not about the style, but about experience. How does your architecture feel? Does it feel hot or comfortable? Still or breezy? Heavy or light? Because in the end, architecture is not what we draw. Yeah, I know you can draw a plan, a section, elevation, or perspective, or so on. But actually, what we want to do is what people experience. Okay, so from the what from what it fell to what is designed. So that is what the term for the lecture today. Ya, apa yang kita rancang kepada apa yang kita ingin design, kan? Alright. So with that, thank you very much.
Oke, yep, very nice ya. Kayaknya ini complete the former presentation itu, Pak. Ya, jadi ada beberapa pertanyaan tadi akhirnya terjawab juga di sini. Ya, salah satunya tadi satu kata kunci tadi yang sangat istimewa di sini adalah strategi create experience di situ ya. Jadi
Ya,
strategi create experience ya itu untuk melengkapi karena dan satu lagi pernyataan dari Pak Khairul di sini adalah air movement is more important than
ya,
lowering temperature. Yep, it's very itu appreciate sekali ya karena memang we should design in line with the climate, not avoid it. Ya,
ya,
especially di daerah tropis itu Pak ya. Ya, oke. Kita buka pertanyaan di sini pada teman-teman. Ada yang mau ditanyakan? Oke, mungkin sebelum bertanya saya bisa memulai dulu Pak. Ya,
ya,
according
boleh,
to
boleh.
your last statement that strategic great experience di sini, kalau kita memang merujuk pada palasma di sini kan kita multisensori ya. Jadi ada multisensori yang kita tekankan pada proses desain ini. Jadi uh, kalau kita mau menghadirkan satu pengalaman ruang spesifik space experience di sini, uh, menurut Pak Khairul, which one is more important? We create our strategy to uh, mendesain material atau mungkin pemilihan material untuk creating desain pasif atau desain pasif it means that we try to cover thermal comfort is our goal. Kita meng-create material tersebut desain tersebut untuk meng-create desain pasif ini atau experience-nya itu Pak. Jadi mana
Okay.
yang menurut terutama pasti kita harus melihat fungsi bangunannya dulu ya Pak ya.
Ya,
Jadi menurut Pak Khairul itu bagaimana itu ya Pak?
okay. I think, thank you. A very interesting question. Yeah. So when we look on the Palasma mentioned about multisensory, yes, of course. But we also look on the others with Zamto and also how holds. Yeah. So all this is about phenomenological. So kalau sekiranya ditanya mana lebih penting, ya, as I mentioned previously, function is important because if without the function, if we designing without meet the main function, so therefore it will be probably not is also can be useless, right? But in the context of that, saya rasa di sini when we try to achieve thermal comfort, basic just mention about one way because thermal comfort, that actually also part of the experience, yeah? As we mentioned throughout my experience, my presentation here, the thermal comfort is actually also an experience, and that is experience also create the phenomenological, so phenomenology, yeah. So experience yang kita rasa, yang kita dapat bila kita rasa thermal comfort, ya, thermally comfort, so kita akan rasakan apa itu ya, kita akan merasakan bahawa tempat ruang yang kita design tu lebih selesa, lebih tenang, lebih sejuk, nyaman, ya. So all that is actually what we feel. That feel is actually due to our sensation ataupun perasaan kita yang terasa daripada sensori kita, ya. So that is what our skin feel, right? And that is actually evoke our mind kita merasakan ruang ini nyaman, makanya desainnya tepat kepada experience itu, ya. But on top of that, of course, we as architect always want to find a way that when we design, not only create just for that one purpose of thermal comfort, but we also want to create the visual impact. We also want to create the sensory through, if possible, sensory through sensors of sound, sensors of from the apa tu bau and so on. So therefore, from itu yang dibicarakan melalui multisensory, right? So tapi cuma saya rasa kalau pada second presentation ni that we more focusing on the thermal comfort, so that's why my presentation talk about more focus on the thermal comfort. But the thing is, actually we already feel the experience. Thermal comfort is actually the experience that you want to derive, and also at the end of the day, what makes your building feel can create the experience ataupun create the atmosphere, the right atmosphere. Okay,
Oke,
Ka-
ya, very nice.
kayaknya begitu.
Oh iya, oke. Boleh lanjut pertanyaan tadi,
Boleh,
Pak? Ya,
sila.
oke. Because sometimes some preferences about materials according to our beliefs, ya, especially for in case ada satu daerah gitu ya di Indonesia itu bagian timur gitu. I've been there. Uh, they prefer to use metal roof than from clay ya dari tanah liat yang it means that kalau menggunakan dari tanah liat we can reduce the heat more than using metals. But they believe that if they use clay for the roof, they avoid it because mereka tidak mau tinggal di bawah tanah. Because if they live under the clay, means from di bawah tanah itu only proposed for orang yang sudah meninggal gitu ya, orang meninggal gitu.
I
Yeah,
see.
so most houses there, most houses there, not just only traditional but also modern houses there. They use metal roof gitu.
I see.
Even though meskipun di sana panas sekali ya, suasananya panas, suhunya panas, tapi mereka menggunakan itu because they believe that they should not live under the tanah liat itu.
Oh,
Iya,
okay, faham,
oke. Jadi
faham.
itu menurut Pak Khairul gimana itu Pak untuk
Oh,
apa? Supaya bisa menghadirkan
oh,
itu. Itu kayaknya perlu strategi untuk
yeah, yeah, yeah,
pemilihan
yeah,
itu ya atau penataan
yeah.
itu. Gimana?
Because I understand that because that is their belief and their customs, probably also part of their ritual understanding, or maybe religious also, or also a culture. So yes, we have to respect that, right? But I believe there is a lot of ways in providing, or probably towards to the better environment for indoor, especially for their context. Okay. Yes, metal probably not the best material for the roof. As I said in my my presentation, that roof is something that you need to take care. That is the most important element if it is a low rise, right? 2 atau 3 tingkat lantai. Yeah. So that is the most important thing that you need to consider. But in their cases, I think even though they are using a metal roof, one of the solution definitely they need to have a insulation layers, because the insulation layers and now there is a lot of insulation material that use as a SPS and EPS and so on. So this is because I also did some research on that. It is actually giving a very big difference in terms of what temperature receive and actually transfer. So one way is on insulation. So there is a lot of ways on doing insulation, and the other one that maybe they can consider is actually to have a higher volume of space, because what they want the idea of high volume, because it is lesser heat being transferred to inside, not lesser in term of maybe it's slowing down feeling towards to the end user on the floor itself, right? So when you have a bigger volume, so therefore the heat from the roof will be less ataupun lebih lambat untuk dirasai. But it's also a good if the design will include for the airflow strategies. So meaning that we can create a stack effect, stack effect. So where we can make the udara panas sekitar bumbung itu keluar, escape through another window or opening at the roof. So the design such as maybe to have a opening on the between the roof or probably a jack roof style and so on. So that is a way of to omit heat from the roof. Yeah. So but having said so juga walaupun dia metal, mungkin metal boleh digunakan dengan selection ataupun warna yang dipilih kan. Maksudnya to have a material that reflect or emit heat better. So therefore mungkin juga another strategy untuk memberikan lebih cepat heat being transfer and so on. Okay. So that is a few strategies I can say if you can, yeah, you got no option, only can use metal. So that is all the strategies that I can think of. Okay.
Oke, yap. Oke, very nice. Oke.
Hmm.
Pak Susilo, ada yang ditanyakan?
Enggak, tadi Alif tuh.
Oh,
Tadi
Alif.
enggak.
Oh iya, Alif. Ada yang
Alif
tanyakan, Alif? Alif Naufal Pratama. Oke, mungkin ini Pak.
Ya.
Ini kan sebenarnya terkait sama proses DA6 atau mereka masih proses studio. Jadi they
Ya.
designing about the design, the architecture design. Ya, tapi ketika dalam proses ini, most of our student do not realize about how dampaknya, misalkan ya, suhunya nanti seberapa, kenyamanannya bagaimana, because apa? Lebih ditekankan kepada visual aspek. Jadi how they design beautifully, how they design beautifully about the composition. But I believe that only a small amount of students consider about the thermal comfort about this. But
Betul.
tapi saya yakin itu sangat berdampak kepada ketika bangunan itu digunakan. Dan itu
Ya.
sangat berdampak. Jadi itu harus jadi preferensi utama, terutama ketika bangunan itu akan dibangun. Lah, untuk bisa menumbuhkan aware terhadap thermal comfort ini pada saat proses mendesain, eh, itu strategi apa itu Pak yang harus kita munculkan di sini? Terutama seperti kalau tadi dilihat contoh-contoh desainnya dari Pak Khairul kan, itu strateginya itu bagus, pemilihan materialnya, penyusunannya, sehingga ada batu bata yang dipasang menyilang-silang kan gitu ya. Jadi ada airflow-nya tetap ada tapi tampilannya cantik. Loh, ini yang kayaknya ketika di proses studio masih belum tergambarkan itu Pak. Sehingga bagaimana supaya itu bisa tergambarkan di proses desain kita itu.
Ya. As we know, ataupun mungkin beberapa kali saya juga sudah maklumkan ya, function one and the second one is the experience that you want to create, right? And thermal comfort is part of the experience. Okay. So cuma bila mereka want to make a decision, kepada in order for you to make the space with considering of the thermal comfort. So that's why you probably you need a knowledge. I mean, you have to make to have some knowledge, and this is one is actually just to give you some ideas. What I presented here, some ideas in order for you, or probably you can use for your strategies when you want to create your design. Okay. So these all strategies basically yang saya dah listed here is actually all this is towards to the thermal environment. or in order to improve the microclimates, the condition. So from what students have studied, I mean, their experience, they go to the site, they feel their own experience, what exactly they feel. So from there also, I think some of the strategy already can be used. Yeah, contohnya, kayaknya contoh macam bila they mention about very hot, there is no no shading and so on. So then this is where they already can see how can the design or probably that particular space can be designed with the shading, right? Or with the element of maybe wall or even roof itself, or even the courtyard. Because this is where the idea of thermal comfort to be included in the design. Yeah? So uh, I, I I know this is not only for probably my student also in UKM also. They always look on the object. I mean, always look on the visual without thinking on the significant of, or the importance of thermal comfort. I always say, kamu berdosa. Kerana design hanya untuk cantik, tapi orang yang tinggal dalam tu panasnya boleh mati. So saya bilang sebenarnya yang the most important, even though sometimes walaupun mungkin is not the best decision of design, but if it is comfortably enough, yeah, I think that is the best decision of design. Okay. But of course, again, kita as architect always come to find a way that how can we see it, how we can do it optimum, secara optimumnya untuk mendapatkan design yang good for ventilation, for thermal, but at the same time it can visually interesting, right? So I have to remember, macam saya dah bilang dalam my presentation tadi, the most important, how to reduce the heat, how to create ventilation, how to create air movement, and the other ones is the material selection. So these three elements, it is three strategies that actually can help the students make their decision and make it part of their design strategies, beside just for the aesthetic purposes, but also considering on the experience or ambience or atmosphere that they want to create. So it's always back to at the end of the day, what experience that they want to create in the space. So kalau lah kata important, of course both is important. Ya, kita tak maulah design kita tak lawa, right? Kita still want to aesthetically pleasant, right? But at the same time, we need to consider, because saya rasa ini yang kita perlu didik pada anak-anak kita, ya, pada adik-adik kita, bahawa ruang yang kita design bukan hanya digunakan satu saat, ya. Maksudnya bukan beberapa tempoh 20 minit, 30 minit. It can be lifelong learning, lifelong punya usage, right? So we have to see this, how can this space can be used comfortably. So that is most important. So saya rasa jangan terlalu menjadikan ataupun meletakkan priority pada estetik semata-mata, tapi we have to see on the shoes of the end user. That's why saya cakap pada student saya, kalau kamu yang bekerja dalam ruang tersebut, maka kamu akan menyumpah the word, you will always curse to the architect, because you say, oh, siapalah design this this space. So that is what you don't want, right? You don't want to be cursed by others. Ya, kalau berdosa itu. So that's why I said, make sure that the space, it is meaningful. Make sure the space can provide the better or the best experience or ambience to the end user. Alright? Okay, Pak, saya harap.
Iya,
Tadi
oke,
saya rada.
iya, iya.
Okay.
Terima kasih. Ya, I couldn't more agree ya. Jadi memang apa luar biasa memang arsitektur tidak hanya untuk 1-2 hari, Pak ya. Itu untuk
Ya,
lifetime gitu ya.
ya,
Iya.
betul.
Heeh. Oke. Ada lagi yang ditanyakan yang lain? Ya. Oh ya, Naufal. Oh, lagi.
Hmm.
Nanta. Ya.
Minta
Ya,
tahu.
Ya,
silakan Nanta.
izin untuk bertanya lagi.
Ya, silakan Nanta.
Okay, yeah. Let me start. Before I'm actually asking the question, it's actually like came up to me very spontaneously when we discuss about like how transforming the tropical elements like um, sunlight, airflow, and through the strategy to actually make an experience how we portray it. And something that happened in my thought was basically from the process of the phenomenology that we actually did was mostly other than sensory. There's also interviews, like actually understanding potential users, and from that there might be certain elements more than just environmental, maybe like cultural as well. But coming back from our topic about tropical designs, is there any way that we could like transform those environmental elements such as tropical sunlight, airflows into something like that could induce cultural values to the actual object, to the site, that makes the users coming there feel like, oh, this is how the building feels like. It's actually existing. It's kind of like making such identity to it.
Yeah.
Maybe by providing, one thing I thought about was actually providing references from vernacular wisdoms, such as the form, or maybe like breaking down concepts to actually grasp the essence. Is that something that I could do?
Okay. All right, Nanta. I think it is very, very good question. Okay. Okay, when we talk about how our ancestor respond to climate, right? When we talk about the vernacular architecture, as you mentioned, right? So that is actually how actually intelligence, or probably how actually very wise decision, how our ancestor respond to the climate, right? So that's why they become to the roof with the pitch roof, and that's why they on still instead of on the ground probably. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe the different context, different approach, but normally that's why they on still. That's why they have a wide windows. That's why or opening. Yeah? That's why they use a timber. This is not just about the time of that particular apa tu time of the build, but also this is actually how they understand the climate. Our ancestor actually apa, nenek moyang, right? Actually, they are very responsive to the climate. So that's why you get that design. Kenapa mereka bina pitch roof? Probably because of they know this is how they get a very high apa ni satunya hujan, ya, very heavy rain, but on top of that because of the heat that actually accumulate on the roof area. So that's why they do it in the pitch form. So that also they create a design such as with the opening within the roof, because they want to allow for the airflow, and that's where the hot air can escape. Why they design such as opening a wide window, wide opening, or probably full height window, because they want to make sure there is the occurrence of cross ventilation. So, and that they can feel to their bodies. So all this decision, basically, what they make is actually that something you can understand, you already understand, I believe, and that is what you can replicate in your design. Their decision is actually already show to us they understand on how they respond to the climate. So therefore, in this case, if you said that how can I use this as to your design? Yes, I will say I totally 100% agree, because they already proved their design is work, yeah, is functional. But having said so, I mean, talking about when you started the question about culture, when they understand how it respond to climate, so therefore it create the culture, right? So it create culture. So culture, culture on surrounding of the building, yeah, surrounding of the spaces, of the function, and so on. So that's culture created because of the built environment that you created. So we respond to the climate and the culture, and probably certain ritual or certain custom that they have in their life. They also design it to the purpose of that. So such as that, Pak Rijal tadi bertanya tentang metal roof and so on. Because of that, due to their ritual and custom and so on, so they make it their architecture actually to support their culture. So in your case, because as you mentioned about certain, you also interview some of the respondent and so on. You want to make sure the culture can be adapt in your building. So I don't think it's not a problem at all. It is not an issue. You can always bring that on the table. Yeah, bring that is part of your design, but only that how you can understand that culture or that function or that ritual and so on can be used with the contract of climate. So I would say the key here is actually it is not an problem at all. In fact, it's going to be a much better architecture, because you understand the local needs. You understand, I mean, the local need itself is a social part, right? So you understand the environmental part. So then your design become even better. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Nanda, I hope I answer your question. All right.
Yes, thank you for your insight, Mr. Khairul.
Yeah, welcome.
Oke, mungkin saya bacakan dulu ya Pak.
Boleh.
Ada pertanyaan di sini di kolom chat from Dewangga Bagaskara, ya. He's very interested in your insight and phenomenology and the connection with thermal comfort. Oke. Uh, he is designing a museum conceptualized as a linear corridor for information gathering. The question is how can I integrate thermal comfort to create an optimal learning atmosphere while staying true to this phenomenological approach, especially in the application of materials. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to answer this, I think there is many ways in design, right? There is no right and wrong. But the idea is actually for the to have a better thermal environment, at the same time to give an optimal learning atmosphere. All right. When we talk about the design itself, already have the specific function, or the space already have a specific function where it's for the purpose of learning, right? So we do have a learning, I don't know, but I think there is certain guideline in terms of learning, how much is that you need for the lighting and so on and so forth. So from here, I think that you can make use of can utilize the daylighting that we have, abundance of daylighting that we have from our climates, right? So this is one way how you can use diffuse. I'm not talking about thermal comfort yet, but let's talking about lighting first, right? So this is where the opportunity for you to use the daylight to use for the learning purposes, right? So how you can use, yes, we cannot just simply apply from the direct daylight because it can create glaring. So that is not good for the learning purposes. So therefore, I think the best way, you need to filter it. Filter, and probably you can have more diffuse instead of just direct daylighting, okay? To have that, how you can design, I think there is a lot of ways to do it. So one way is by providing filter or shading device, right? That maybe with the perforated or permeable that allow for daylighting. Yeah, but of course you need to make sure that is the day factor is correct and so on. All right. But on top of that, you also can create can create the idea of to have um, clerestory clerestory window where you can allow for the daylighting to pass through to the to your space, where the character of clerestory is actually to create the diffuse light. So therefore, it can give you a better in term of light environment. I mean, because when you have, as I said, opening is important because the reason of opening, then you can feel the environment of your space is probably apa tu bukan sempit, yeah? It can be large, yeah? You can feel the space is a bigger space and so on. Then it can give a better or the sensation that you create is different. Yeah. Okay. When we talk about thermal comfort, yeah, is again back to the way of how you going to have your learning. In this case, I believe you want to create natural ventilated spaces. Yeah. So when we have, or probably with the at least assisted by fan, ceiling fan. Yeah. So you need to have the space whereby you have to create a parity to the daylight and the space that you can have with the shading device. As I said to you, shading device doesn't have to be like a very horizontal, vertical, and so on. Sometimes a very simple acrylic or horizontal of extra thin from the outside, where it actually can shaded the space, shaded that you can also have a long overhang. Yeah, it's already shaded your space, and at the same time provide a good amount of light. Then it can be comfortable enough. Comfortable in terms of thermal. Then also to make sure it comfortable, to make even better for the comfortable in terms of thermal. So you have to allow for the airflow can pass through your space. Yeah. So that airflow, beside it being assisted by the fan, yeah. So you will have to make sure that there is an opening that you can create the cross ventilation, or probably even based on your design can create a stack effect and so on. So that will be very good for your design. Yeah, I hope that you can see what is actually in my mind, but I think that is the thing that you need to consider. You have the space, yeah, you know the function, but now how you want to create the experience. So back to the experience, sometimes the experience that you want to create not only in terms of thermal comfort, but also the experience people experience in the space that you create is also how how you say it, the optimal, yeah, as you mentioned, the optimal, the learning process can be happen optimally. Yeah, all right. Okay, so I hope I answer your question too, Bagas.
Iya, gimana Bagas?
Mhm.
Oke, ya, ya, already answered. Ya, tapi memang jadi harus tahu eh, ruangan apa yang nanti mau didesain dan experience apa yang nanti mau dihasilkan, nanti yang mau kalian sampaikan ke dalam desain. Apalagi ini kan museum ya, jadi nanti mau experience seperti apa, jadi material itu nanti yang nanti akan membantu meng-create di situ ya. Nanti
Ya,
alternatifnya itu yang nanti harus banyak dipilih oleh Bagas
ya.
nanti gitu ya. Oke,
Cuma, sorry, Pak,
oke,
kalau
ya.
boleh ditambah lagi,
Mm,
because here Bagas mention about learning. Yeah. So probably when you have a space for the gallery and so on, probably then you have to see maybe because of the function, certain idea of thermal comfort, probably I mean the way that you want to have a shading device and so on. This you have to see function, because probably when you have a museum, gallery and so on, the artifact that you show, that also can impact due to the environment that you create. So that is always have to see how you can apply it. But try as much as possible, if that is the intention of creating for the thermal comfort and so on, try to find a way that can be done for the certain design. But some of the design might be not so I mean, some of the spaces might be not can be done for this purpose. Yeah. All right. All
Very
right.
nice. Thank you so much, Pak Khairul. Eh, Mohon maaf karena ini waktunya sudah mendekati akhir ya. Kita sudah lewat ini,
Ya.
Pak. Mohon
Iya.
maaf. Iya,
Enggak apa-apa, saya oke. Tapi
iya.
anak-anak yang lain, adik-adik
Oh
yang
iya.
lain, hari
Gimana
liburan,
ini?
udah
Iya.
mau makan ya.
Oh itu iya. Karena
Tak.
sesuai perjanjian di awal kita jam 11 sudah selesai, kita sudah jam 11.40, Pak. Jadi kita lewatnya hampir 1 jam ini bonusnya. Iya.
Oh, saya
Oke.
minta maaf juga ya,
Oke, tapi ini
terambil lama.
oh enggak apa-apa Pak. Ini karena memang materinya menarik sekali pada hari ini, jadi kita diskusinya
Hmm,
jadi lebih panjang daripada yang kita perkirakan itu Pak. Iya. Oke.
oke.
Eh, karena waktunya sudah mendekati akhir dan juga kalau di sana sudah hampir jam 1 ya
11.
Pak ya.
Iya,
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 sudah
iya.
hampir jam 1 ya. Sudah eh, tadi Pak Susilo bilang itu Pak Khairul udah waktunya sholat zuhur ini. Udah, ya. Jadi kita
Actually, saya mau ada wedding,
Oh,
mau ke
ada wedding.
wedding.
Oh, iya, oke. Iya.
Ada
Oke.
wedding invitation. So
Oh, oke,
lepas
oke,
ini
oke.
langsung ke
Oke,
wedding
iya mohon maaf
invitation.
Pak. Jadi kita bisa akhiri sekarang saya bacakan kesimpulan untuk pada
Ya,
sesi pada eh, pagi pagi menjelang siang hari ini. Ya,
ya.
oke. Jadi kesimpulan pada hari ini terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much pada Pak Khairul atas kesempat ke menyempatkan diri untuk memberikan materi atau sharing materi pada kami. Ya, jadi sebelum menutup mungkin saya sampaikan kesimpulan sedikit di sini. Ya, tadi Pak Khairul sempat bilang memang arsitektur itu dibentuk bukan untuk 1 2 hari, 2 3 bulan, tapi untuk selamanya, yang cukup waktu yang cukup panjang. Jadi
Ya.
seperti yang mungkin saya sandingkan dengan Pak Winston Churchill yang disampaikan oleh Pak Khairul tadi, dia mengatakan bahwa we shape our buildings and then they shape us. Jadi bangunannya seperti apa itu yang nanti akan meng-create kita, membuat kita nyaman atau tidak di situ. Ya. Dari yang dirasakan ke yang dirancang, menghidupi fenomenologi sebagai metode desain arsitektur kulit manusia. Itu adalah tema pada hari ini. Jadi diskusi ini menegaskan tentang bahwa arsitektur tidak hanya bentuk dan visual, namun juga tentang bagaimana ruang dirasakan oleh tubuh melalui panas, cahaya, tekstur, udara, maupun atmosfer ruang. Jadi pendekatan fenomenologi di sini, terutama yang untuk di DA6 di sini adalah pendekatan fenomenologi. Ini menekankan kita bahwa pengalaman indrawi itu menjadi bagian penting pada proses merancang. Ya, jadi melalui kulit bangunan tadi, terus fenomena termal yang sempat disampaikan oleh Pak Khairul di sini, itu menunjukkan bahwa pemilihan material itu memiliki peran yang sangat penting untuk menghadirkan kenyamanan pada arsitektur, terutama di daerah tropis. Ya eh, material bangunan, terus selubung bangunan, ventilasi alam, strategi pemilihan desain di situ itu akan sangat mempengaruhi performa desain. Namun juga berpengaruh kepada pengalaman atau experience ruang dan emosional bagi pengguna ruangnya. Jadi strategi menjadi sesuatu yang sangat penting. bagi kita dalam proses merancang untuk memperhatikan kenyamanan penghuni di dalam bangunan tersebut. Ya, hal ini sejalan dengan pemikiran Juhani Palasma bahwa arsitektur tidak hanya dilihat secara visual, tapi harus seluruh indrawi. Ya, sementara Victor Olke itu menekankan bahwa desain kenyamanan pasif antara iklim dan tubuh manusia itu yang sangat ditekankan untuk membuat orang bisa merasa betah di dalamnya. Nah, jadi bagi semua peserta di sini, terutama mahasiswa, diskusi ini mengingatkan pentingnya proses desain itu sebaiknya dimulai dari memahami manusia dan lingkungannya. Lingkungannya di mana, kalau di daerah tropis, kondisi tropis seperti apa, manusianya yang dibutuhkan seperti apa, kenyamanan bagi manusia itu yang dibutuhkan bagaimana, kita harus lebih peka terhadap kondisi iklimnya, manusianya, dan ingat seperti yang disampaikan oleh Pak Khairul adalah kita jangan avoid atau melawan atau menghindari alam atau iklimnya, tapi kita inline dengan iklim tersebut. Ya, jadi desain kita menyesuaikan karena iklim itu sudah ada, desain kita menyesuaikan kalau panas, ya bagaimana kita membuat airflow supaya bisa menurunkan panas itu. Jadi tidak harus direduce dengan apa namanya penghawaan buatan, tapi penghawaannya tetap alami, tapi bisa mereduce dengan cara airflow-nya itu kita tekankan. Sehingga strategic design itu yang harus kita tekankan dalam proses perancangan ini, supaya pengalaman ruang, kenyamanan ruang di situ lebih bermakna dan lebih berguna bagi penggunanya ke depan. Ya, oke, terima kasih. Itu kesimpulan pada siang hari ini. Terima kasih sekali lagi saya sampaikan kepada Bapak Dr. Khairul Azhar atas kesempatannya, Pak Susilo atas inisiatifnya, dan Bapak Ibu dosen ada Bu India, ada Bu Wasiska, tadi ada Bu Emma, ada Bu Damayanti, dan ada beberapa dosen yang lain juga ada di sini. Dan juga tak lupa kepada semua teman-teman mahasiswa sudah menyempatkan hadir dan belajar cukup banyak materi yang bisa dipelajari pada siang hari ini. Ya, terima kasih atas waktunya. Saya sebagai moderator di sini mengundurkan diri. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih
Saya
Dokter Khairul. Mohon
Ya,
maaf.
Terima
ya.
kasih, Dr. Khairul.
Saya,
Ya.
saya terima kasih juga. Saya sudah sharekan slide-nya dengan Pak Susilo ya.
Oh, oke.
Ya,
Nanti boleh
siap, siap.
Apa?
di-sharekan dengan anak-anak.
Oke,
Alright,
siap.
oke.
Terima kasih,
Terima
Pak
kasih.
Khairul.
Oke.
Ya,
Terima kasih, terima
Oke,
kasih.
terima kasih
kasih.
semua.
Ya.
Insyaallah jumpa lagi
Oke. Bu India di mana
dua
ini?
minggu lagi ya.
Ya.
Ya, 2 minggu
Alright.
lagi,
Oke.
tanggal 21
Ya.
insya Allah nanti.
Oke,
Ya,
Oke, ya.
insyaallah. Oke,
baik. Terima kasih, terima kasih.
assalamualaikum. Ya,
Waalaikumsalam
assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi.
Terima kasih. Eh, sebentar. Dari jadwal.
Kita ke second
Iya, kita ke
presentation.
second, iya, second,
Alright, okay.
iya, kita ke second materi, Pak. Jadi
Okay.
second materi,
So,
jadi, oke, jadi kita masuk ke sesi materi ini yang nanti akan disampaikan oleh Bapak Dr. Khairul Azhar. Tadi sudah disampaikan sedikit sama Pak Susilo ya terkait sama CV-nya. Ya, terima kasih Pak Sus. Harusnya moderator itu yang menyampaikan, tapi tadi sudah disampaikan sedikit sama Pak Sus. Ya,
Mohon maaf, memotong sebentar. Saya
iya,
izin
iya,
untuk membuka acara di sebelah
Ya,
Dr.
terima
iya,
kasih,
Khairul.
Bu.
Bu Lisa.
Maaf,
Terima kasih.
semoga lancar, sukses saja.
alright.
Iya, Bu.
Terima kasih
Terima
Ibu.
kasih, Bu Lita.
Terima kasih Bu
Ya,
Lisa.
eh, ya. Ya. Oke, tak kenal maka tak sayang. Tadi sudah disampaikan sama Pak Susilo di sini, ya. Jadi pemateri kita pada pagi hari ini adalah Bapak Dr. Muhammad Khairul Azhar bin Mat Sulaiman di sini. Beliau adalah banyak ini ya, apa namanya profesinya. Beliau pensyarah, terus peneliti juga ya. Dia pengajar, terus juga mungkin ada eh, beberapa kegiatan lain yang beliau lakukan. Praktisi juga di sini ya. Ah, beliau menjabat sebagai pengajar bidang seni bina dan alam bina di Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia di sini ya. Jadi sudah sempat disampaikan sama Pak Susilo bidang atau kalian beliau di bidang arsitektur ya. Beliau memang spesifiknya lebih ke building thermal gitu ya, building thermal, terus comfort thermal, thermal comfort, terus di situ building energy, desain pasif dan juga ada beberapa bidang lain terkait sama building science. Beliau apa banyak meneliti di bidang itu. Namun beliau juga meneliti di bidang environment, terus landscape juga di situ ya. Karena di beberapa risetnya beliau juga membahas tentang sosial terus tentang behavior itu ada banyak hal di situ. Kalau yang tadi sempat disinggung Pak Susilo terkait sama merasakan untuk mendesain, beliau juga banyak berkutat di bidang apa namanya behavior, terus space and society, sehingga ada banyak apa namanya pendekatan desainnya bukan hanya pada fisik buildingnya, bukan hanya pada cover atau building atau bangunan itu sendiri, tapi juga berkutat sama manusianya juga. Ya, jadi sangat tepat untuk materi pada pagi hari ini, ya, terutama untuk dua materi pada hari ini. Yang pertama itu terkait sama kulit manusia, kulit bangunan, pengalaman Inderawi, material dan selubung pada bangunan tropis di sini. Terus yang kedua membaca panas dengan tubuh, fenomenologi thermal dan keputusan untuk desain pasif. Jadi beliau memang sangat tepat untuk memberikan materi pada hari ini karena banyak riset beliau yang berkutat di bidang tersebut. Ya, oke, tanpa panjang lebar, mungkin Bapak Dr. Khairul Azhar bisa menyampaikan materi yang pertama. Nanti akan kita lanjut dengan diskusi bersama dengan teman-teman di sini. Ya, monggo, Pak.
Okey, alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat pagi. Terutama kepada Pak Susilo dan juga moderator kita, Pak Rizal, juga ibu-ibu dosen dan juga bapa-bapa dosen yang ada bersama kita pagi ini. Alhamdulillah. Dan terutama sekali kepada anak-anak, adik-adik ya. Di sini, di sana panggil adik-adik. Adik-adik anak-anak mahasiswa yang mengikuti desain architecture ya 6 khusus ini. Pertama kali saya ingin ucapkan saya mohon maaf ya kerana saya telah cancelkan dan juga mengganggu liburan masing-masing, hari liburan ya hari ini. Mohon maaf tapi alhamdulillah finally we managed to do our apa itu lecture kita bersama hari ini ya. Dua lecture sekali. But tapi sepanjang lecture yang saya akan sampaikan, insyaAllah saya akan mungkin mostly saya akan conduct in English, but definitely saya allow for saya akan cuba campur-campur, tapi kalau campur-campur tu mostly dalam bahasa Malaysia lah. Indonesia mungkin sikit-sikit. Alright, but insyaAllah saya boleh mengerti sekiranya ditanya dalam bahasa Indonesia. Kalau saya tidak mengerti, saya boleh tanya juga ya. Alright, okay. Bila tadi dengar description ataupun penjelasan atau very detailed explanation by Dr. Susilo, yeah, I can say this is going to be my first time where did I conduct a lecture on my expertise, yeah, but not on the objective way, meaning that this is more on the qualitative part. We're talking about more on the way about rasa, yeah, about emotion and so on. So it's going to be very interesting for me also. But I hope that whatever that I prepare today is going to be delivered as what we promised lah, insyaAllah. But if I might have a little kekurangan, I'm very sorry for everything. But hopefully we can understand and we can discuss together for everything. Alright. So untuk ini saya mau share screen-nya dulu ya. Sudah kelihatan? Sudah ya?
Sudah,
Alright,
Pak.
okay.
Sudah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Alright, so today, as I said, again, first of all, I think I would like to say thank you for inviting me. Yeah, so it is a really pleasure to be here with you all. Yeah, but today I want to share a slightly different way of thinking about architecture, as even myself also is gonna not to be as usual that I practice or probably giving a lecture, but not the thing that probably I think what I mentioned about different way of thinking about architecture is not from form. Ini pun dijelaskan oleh Pak Susilo tadi. Ya. We're not talking about form, not talking about aesthetic, but we are talking about experience. So specifically how material play a role, not just for as construction, but as something that shapes how we feel space, especially in tropical climates. Okay, so this lecture is really about shifting perspective. Okay, so the title, I hope the title is almost similar to the given. Yeah. So material as the body of architecture from climate to experience. Okay, so let me begin with a simple question. Have you ever been in two spaces where the temperature is almost the same, yeah? But one feel very hot and the other feel comfortable? Maybe one space feels stuffy, yeah, but another one feel breezy. So one feel harsh, another feel calm. So the difference is not just about the numbers like temperature or humidity, but the different, this difference also is not only technical, but it is architectural. And it is about how architecture shape experience. And this is where our discussion begins. So in architecture, as already mentioned by Dr. Susilo just now, very elaborative. Bila saya dengar pun saya rasa alamat takutnya I cannot achieve to the level of thinking of Dr. Susilo. But it's going to be a very interesting actually. So in architecture, this related to field called phenomenology. Yeah. So architects like Peter Zamto and Juhani Palasma and even Stephen Hall has been talking about this for many years. And this idea is simple. Architecture is not only something we see, it is something we experience with our entire body. We feel it through movement, through temperature, through sound, and through light. And so instead of asking, what does the building look like? We begin to ask, what does the space feel like? Zamto used the word atmosphere to describe this. Atmosphere is not something we can draw easily, and it is not just a plan or a section or even elevation. Yeah, it is overall feeling of being in a space. So, for example, some spaces feel calm, yeah, and some feel very heavy, and some feel sacred or probably spiritual. Yeah? But often, yeah, we remember this feeling more than the physical form itself. So that's why atmosphere is most powerful in architecture. Yeah? So basically, what the Zamto mentioned about the atmosphere, we actually design how does the space can give the emotion, create the ambience, and so on. So the sensation that we feel, that actually the thing that we most remember rather than the form or probably the aesthetic part. Okay. And this about multisensory. When we enter a space, we don't only use our eyes. We hear footsteps, we feel air movement, and we sense temperature. Sometimes we even notice smell. So architecture is actually multisensory. And this is important because material is what activates these senses. So without material, there is no sensory experience. So now we come to materials. Okay? I want to talk of material not as a surface, but as interface. It sits between the outside environment and the human body. Climates like heat, light, and air does not reach us directly, it always passes through material first. So material become a filter or even a translator. So material controls several things at the same time. It controls how much heat enter, how lights diffuse and reflected, and how much air move, and even how sound behaves. So when we choose a material, we are not just making a construction decision. We are shaping environmental experience. So from this photo that you can see how actually the design give you several experience, or probably the sensation that we are talking about, how this material, choice of material can create environment such as calmness, sacred, spiritual, or maybe a light, and even heavy. Yeah? So all these phenomena, or probably that we call as the emotion that we are creating here, this is the you as a student should derive or should have the answer, and probably that what we try to achieve in this semester. Okay. So different material produce different sensation. For example, stone often feel cool, solid, and quiet. Wood feel warmer, softer, and more intense. Even concrete can feel either harsh or calm, depending on how it is used. So material has what we call character. Yeah? So as this character directly affect how we feel in a space. So again, the decision on what we decided on material selection, it is totally give the outcome on what sensory that will evoke in your design, and the phenomenology that you would like to create it. All right. So different material create different sensation. Phil, this is what I share with you, just to give you some ideas that material can create the sensory experience where you can see through visual. Yeah. So visual, normally we always relate to aesthetic, but not only that, but visual also what you see in terms of light reflection, yeah, texture, colors, yeah. Textile, yeah, textile, meaning that what you touch, what you feel from with your hand, with your skin. So roughly, roughness, softness, and acoustic sound, where we can create echo, absorption, and thermal. This is how we feel, yeah, to our bodies, warm, cool, and olfactory, which is a smell of wood, stone, earth, floral, and so on. Okay, so this is actually what Zanto referred to as the temperature and sound of space. Okay, now in the context of tropical, and to be specific to the Malang, Indonesia climates, the idea become even more important, because in tropical, you can see in this slide that we do have a slightly we do always I would say but compared to KL, I think Malang have a slightly lower, or even I can say mild temperature. Yeah, very nice temperature that we can see throughout a year. But we do have a almost similar character, which is like humidity, where we had a very high humidity, and also we do have a very low in terms wind speed. Yeah, so this is the character of our climate, where we need to understand and we need to use this or probably manipulate this, how we can include in our design. And this is the decision that not only will affect will affect your decision in terms of your building, but also to the end user, which is your user of your building, how they feel about your architecture. All right. So as I said to you, we are also dealing with a strong radiation. Yeah, strong radiation. Therefore, this is the thing that we need to cater. This is the thing that we need to understand how we can reduce the impact from the heat transfer to inside. So if architecture does not respond properly, the space becomes uncomfortable very quickly. So material is not optional, it is critical. So material envelope, yeah? The building envelope is where everything comes together. Through layers, openings, and materials, we control how the environment, outside environment, enter to the indoor space or probably the interior space. Yeah? So airflow, light, and heat are all shapes here. So this is where architecture becomes something we can actually feel, right? Shading device are not very shading devices are very important, very important passive design strategy. So they do not simply block sunlight, yeah, but they filter it, and most importantly, they reduce heat from radiation, especially direct radiation, before enter the space. Yeah, so this is critical in tropical climate because most of the heats come from the direct solar exposure. So by filtering sunlight, we actually controlling how much heat reach this interior. So, but at the same time, shading device create pattern on of light and shadow. So these patterns are not static, yeah, and they can change throughout a day. And this creates a dynamic spatial environment or atmosphere. Okay. In some cases, shading device can also be kinetic. They can move with wind or mechanical system. And this movement can produce subtle sounds. So shading is not only for visual or thermal, but it's also become an auditory experience. So shading is not only a technical solution, yeah, but it's a spatial filter where shaping heat, light, and even sound into experience. So if you can see this is an example, I mean, just to show you a few photos where the type of shading device that we use, that is just not to control solar radiation, but at the same time, we would like to create sensation through the shadows and the light that come through to the space. This can be a bit in the first photo. It can be a bit for the aesthetic purposes, but it's actually good for which create the experience, yeah, with this kind of shading device. You can have this kind of treatment in through the shadow, but definitely this is try to reduce or filter the very high radiation from enter to the space, and also it to provide or reduce the glaring from the direct day lighting. So it is a two situation where this device actually can help in two situation, which is for the purpose of radiation and also for the heat or thermal comfort. Yeah, and the other one is to help in term or to provide the better quality for the daylighting, which is for the light itself lah. Yeah, and also if you can see in the middle photos here, we can see this is a bit for the kinetic, or probably that it's actually the shading device itself can be moved either by wind or either by the mechanical equipment, right? But when we do this with the kinetic, sometimes it also produces sounds, and that sound also can create another experience where I mentioned about for the sound, yeah. Even though probably it can be a very subtle, yeah, it can be very like a chime sound, but it's also create another experience to the end user. Okay, so in vertical greenery system, or the others can mention about, or probably you guys have come across the word as green facade, living wall, green walls, or even there is a lot of a name for this kind of system, yeah? But we're talking about the vertical greenery system where we actually have a vertical landscaping that covers our facade. Yeah, so different system is actually have a different way ataupun produce in terms of thermal environment and so on. All right, so let's look at green facade. Often people see this is as a purely aesthetic, something added to make a building looks more green or visually appealing. But in reality, green facade perform multiple roles. They provide shading, they reduce surface temperature, and they soften the intensity of light entering the building. So in this sense, plants act almost like a living layer of material, filtering environmental condition before they reach the wall. They cool the building passively even before heat is absorbed into the structure. So again, we are not blocking climate, we are transforming it. So beyond thermal performance, green facade also contribute to sensory experience. The selection of plants becomes important. Fragrant species such as herb or flowering plants can introduce subtle scents into the space. So the facade is no longer just seen, it is also experienced through smell. So in this way, a green facade is not just a visual features, it's also becoming a multi-sensory environmental filter, shaping temperature, light, and even atmosphere. So we can say this, in tropical architecture, material has a dual role. It controls environmental performance, and at the same time, it creates sensory experience. And good design happens when these two are integrated. Material is not passive. Material actively produce spatial environment or experience. Let's talk about Zumthor. Yeah. If you look at the work of Peter Zumthor, especially thermal valves, we can see this idea very clearly. Stone creates a sense of coolness, water introduces sounds and movement, and light is carefully controlled. And the result is not just a building, but an atmosphere that you can feel with your body. But in our context, we don't copy Zumthor directly. Instead, we translate the principle. For example, instead of thick stone, we might use shading layer for ventilated facade. Instead of enclosed calm space, we might design for airflow and openness. And the idea remain the same, the experience of the body. All right. So we in the tropical probably we have the same principle. We translate his principle. Instead of using the stone coolness, we're using a shaded surface, and then instead of filtering light, maybe we actually control through our screen facade. And we for the silent, we might use a soft material for our principle, or probably the what we want to create the atmosphere. So from everything we have discussed, material, shading, airflow, and climate, we begin to see the bigger idea. Material is not just what we see, it is what we feel. It shapes light, temperature, and even sound before it reaches the body. And this is where a shift begins. Architecture is not only about composing form or object, but it is about shaping how these environmental conditions are experienced in space. Now, let's look at your work. Dr. Susilo have shared one of the student work, so I try to understand exactly, try to understand how the studio been run. So therefore, what from the work that I see or I saw, so I try to understand how can we interpret your experience to design. Okay, so what you have done here is already very important. You have identified experience. You observe heat, noise, exposure, and airflow. And from that, we begin to understand the problem in space. This is where architecture begins. Not as a form, not at form, but at awareness. Okay? So this observation is not just analysis, they are the foundation of design thinking. Okay, so you from your experience, you mentioned about sunny, hot temperature, noisy, too exposed, too enclosed, and so on. So I also identified the problem because due to the no shading, no buffer, no boundary, and poor airflow. So this make to the design action, or probably the design strategy that you can do in order to create the experience that you want to have in your in specific space, right? So you can add the canopy or filter layers. You can create a acoustic wall, create a semi enclosure, or introduce ventilation. So at the end, for the final reflection, material is not only what we see, it is what we feel. So architecture begins when climax, material, and the human body come together. And what you feel should guide you what you design. So thank you very much. I think that is about for our first presentation. Pak Rizal. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khairul Azhar. Yap, menarik sekali ya, very interesting materi yang disampaikan oleh Pak Khairul ini. Eh, kita langsung masuk ke sesi diskusi mungkin ya, ya,
Ya,
bisa?
okay.
Oke, masuk ke sesi diskusi. Jadi memang tadi sekedar saya review sedikit ya, memang ada beberapa materi yang memang sangat berkaitan sama mungkin lebih ke persepsi yang ditangkap ya, persepsinya bisa visual, bisa apa namanya pengalaman termal kan itu ya. Jadi pemilihan untuk material sangat penting untuk meng-create satu ruang yang nyaman yang bisa kita hadirkan dari perencanaan ini ya. Eh, Mungkin teman-teman yang ada pertanyaan bisa langsung ke kolom chat atau langsung raise hand di sini ya. Sambil menunggu itu, saya boleh sedikit bertanya, Pak? Iya, oke.
Ya, sila
Eh,
sila.
Oke, kalau according to your personal opinion itu, menurut Anda itu material preferences untuk desain itu which one is more important? Apakah untuk creating thermal comfort, which
Mm.
mean it's a physically directed impact with us, or visual perception, how we kita memilih atau material optionsnya itu untuk creating visual option like texture, color, or maybe uh, decorations, which mean visual perception itu bisa membuat persepsi kita atau menghadirkan persepsi kita terhadap kenyamanan ruang juga. But it means tapi ini yang lebih psychologically. Ya, menurut Pak Khairul itu which one is more prevalent, yang lebih utama, Pak?
Okay. I think when we are in the setting of tropical setting, definitely we do have as I mentioned, the characteristic from our climate, which we have a very high solar radiation. We have a weak in terms of wind movement, or air speed, Well, at the same time, we do have a very high humidity. So all these things is actually really give the impression or probably create the situation in terms of experience on to that particular space. So when we mention, we're not just about talking about to on the visual part, but we also want to create how the phenomenal logy is actually impact to our body in other in another dimension, right? So yes, of course, one of it, I will say that the wall itself, ataupun enclosure that we are creating is the most important. Now I'm talking about how we sitting in one space, not looking through from outside, not on the exterior part, but as experience as in the space itself, right? So I think the wall itself is very important. As I mentioned, the selection of materials really determine how the experience created. So one of it, if I can say, when we talk about material or the element of the design, I think the wall itself need to be highly considered. The reason because this is one where heat is transferred, all right? But at the same time, it's also how we get the light where it will also impact on the visual. But at the same time, because the emotion that we want to create is apa tu yang menarik, ya. So kalau kita dalam konteks tropical ini, I believe we need, due to the low wind and so on and high humidity. So I believe we need to have that involve apa tu with the screen ataupun kalau kita kata ventilated wall. I think that is a very good design decision. Because when you have a ventilated wall or permeable wall, di situ kita akan dapat allow some air movement. Definitely, that is what we need to make sure the humidity can be washed out, and that also at the same time where we can have a light for daylighting, and also at the same time you can feel the space is much not as a stuffy ataupun kita tak terasa too enclosed, but also I believe the opening also play a very important role, opening, the size of opening, how you want to design this one. You can have a double, probably a double wall and so on. So this opening actually also can allow for daylighting, but this is where the decision that need to be creatively or intelligently to be designed, which is the shading device, that how you design. The simple of overhang, of probably 8 crate shading device. This is already give a better impact towards the indoor environment. So when I mention here, the thing that I important for you, I think, for this exercise is actually to create the experience, the atmosphere, the ambience in the space. So this decision, that's why I said one of it is a wall element is a need to be highly catered. And maybe also the volume of the space also have to be considered, because sometimes with the double volume or how you going to design it, maybe space within the space and so on, that also can create another different dimension in terms of space sensation. All right, sorry. I think
Oke,
I answered
iya.
the question.
Okay, yep, yeah, okay. Honestly, I totally agree with you, ya,
Mm,
especially in the tropical area ya. Di daerah
mm,
tropis itu memang thermal comfort itu more important, ya. Some
mm.
several research or article state that also, ya, karena kalau misalkan kita berada dalam satu ruangan yang mungkin secara thermal itu comfort, kita bisa betah itu lama di situ, ya. Tapi kalau mungkin only visual, but kita nggak nyaman di dalam ruang itu, comfortnya, tapi
Yeah,
visual bagus, maybe at first sight itu kita excited, but not for long, tidak untuk berlama-lama di dalam itu, ya.
yeah, benar.
Oke, oke, itu saya setuju sekali ya. Oke, teman-teman ada yang mau ditanyakan di sini? Ya, ini karena seperti yang sempat disampaikan oleh Pak Susilo, ya, itu proses mendesain yang sudah dilakukan oleh teman-teman itu mereka explore. Jadi they try to experience themselves through ini apa suhu juga. Mereka
Yeah,
merasakan panas di site itu ya. Mereka
yeah, yeah.
merasakan tekstur, ya. They feel how to feel, they touch the material directly gitu ya. Jadi uh, mereka harus bisa menggambarkan itu. They have to
Yeah, yeah.
describe by themselves, and then they try to create it into their design. Oke, teman-teman ada yang ditanyakan di sini? Mumpung kita banyak diskusi, ya. Karena nanti kalau kalian sudah masuk ke pengembangan desain ini kan masih proses penyusunan konsep, ya. Gak tahu kalau di kelasnya Bu Aziz kayaknya udah jauh lebih leading gitu ya. Di kelas saya kayaknya masih menyusun konsep desain. Jadi ini bisa kita tanyakan di sini bagaimana pemilihan material yang sesuai itu bagaimana ya. Kalau misalkan kalian mau meng-create ruang yang dalam konsep desain kalian atau ruang atau visual yang kalian inginkan itu bagaimana, itu kira-kira pemilihan materialnya apa yang cocok. Ya, jadi manfaatkan sesi ini untuk apa namanya memperkaya desain kalian. Ya, oke, ada yang ditanyakan di sini? Ya,
Uh,
oh ya, nah, oke oke,
izin bertanya.
oke oke, yap, Mas, apa namanya, Nata, ya,
Saya
silakan Nata. Ya.
izin memperkenalkan diri, saya Nanta dari kelas A. Before that, I'd like to ask a question about the secondary facade, maybe around something more like implementation into the design. Mostly, I thought of like these kind of how do I say this? Atmosphere, building atmosphere through secondary facades mostly applies to spaces that counts as circulation, maybe an alleyway that could build like the momentum and stuff. How about something more like a functional room? Maybe an entrance into a cinema, or maybe a functional one. Maybe I want to build atmosphere in uh, a paddle um, studio and all that. Is there any way that I could implement maybe either sound, light, or something in a more architectural translation? Maybe like implementing local materials that could be like specifically mentioned. Is there any inspiration I could grasp? I think that's my question. Thank you, Miss.
Oh, all right. Okay, Natal, ya? Natal, right?
Nanta,
Nanta, all right.
Nanta, ya.
Sorry. Okay, I did Nanta. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I try to understand the question. Basically, what you mentioned is about double skin, right? Where you have one skin outside and the other skin, and that's why you produce like a alley or upper corridor or something like that. That is what you see, or mostly this kind of approach being implemented, right? So now your question is actually how we can create such that kind of ideas to the bigger function space where it's actually more have a specific function, right? Okay, as such as what you're saying about a studio and so on. All right. So definitely, of course, when you are creating certain spaces, you have to go back to what exactly the function of the space, right? And in order to have that, we also have to make sure that the function of that space must work first, right? Work, in order, let's say, for the example that you want to create a studio, studio, I believe the studio is for the purpose of recording and so on and so forth, right? So therefore, from there, you have to see that the function of that space is thick, so you know the function. But as what you are creating studio, I believe studio itself already create another sensation of the space, which is the space that you are providing. It is the absorption, where you need the absorption and so on. The wall itself, I believe the wall itself is already have a textile, because of the acoustic purposes, right? So they need to have a design in order to make sure that you can provide a better role or the function of the studio itself with the acoustic panel and so on. So that is also create a sense of textile where actually create the emotion or create the phenomenological in terms of touch and so on. But to have that, actually, when you talk about how you also can implement this kind of idea to, I think it's just go back to what exactly your experience on that particular space, or probably the space that you want to design, what kind of experience that you want to create. So from there, based on the experience that you want to create, and the function that you have that space function, and then you start to try to make a decision, like my previous slide, you make the decision on, let's say, how to create the wall. Okay, so how to create the wall that actually not only give a good acoustic, but also at the same time give a thermal comfort to the end user, and at the same time, perhaps maybe also can create a very good visual impact. So as you know that we cannot avoid from the visual, but we don't say just a visual, but we want to create more on the phenomenological. So that's why I think the most important, the decision on how you want to select the material is always come with what the experience that you want to create. So I think it's always have to be first decision that when you want to start to make a design, and of course without sacrifice the main purpose of that function or that space. Then from there, I think then you make a better decision in terms of, okay, can I use this what do you call that, ventilated wall for the purpose of studio? I might say maybe it not really work probably, but because why? Because you need the function of the space for the recording and so on. But you can use on this kind of design, this kind of application on the other space where they have a different function. Maybe if you use that is for the lobby, or you use that for the any space, probably even for waiting area and so on. I think that is it is well worth to try. All right. Okay. Nata, I hope I can Nanta. I hope I answer your question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Khairul. Maybe if I summarize the
Mhm.
answer. It's mostly looking back to what kind of atmosphere would I want to like the
Exactly.
user to perceive, and
Yeah.
mostly it's really according to the function of the building and
Yeah.
the room itself, and
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
trying to implement some reference, because for right now as a undergrad student I'm mostly are kind of having a hard time uh understanding how the actual atmosphere would look like, because it's not actually a built thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's only like designing from computer.
Yeah.
I think that what makes it a barrier from actually understanding the whole atmosphere. But thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Khairul. It's
Oh,
very helpful.
welcome, welcome. But the good thing is about, if I can add just a little bit, good thing about architecture in Indonesia, I think you have a abundant a reference, a good reference from the Indonesia architects have produced. Definitely talking about how to create uh, experience or atmosphere. So, but I do respect and I do adore the way thinking of architect from Indonesia. So I believe you have abundant reference for you to make a reference, and also for your what do you call this? For your precedent study. So that is going to be a very good. Then I think you can have a good decision letter for your design. So always remember what the kind of emotion experience that you want to be experienced by your end user, and then have to suit to the purpose of the spaces. All right. Okay. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Dr. Khairul.
Oke, gimana Nanta? Oke, saya rasa sangat jelas ya, clear enough ya. Jadi memang eh, tentukan dulu tujuannya seperti apa ya. Referensinya sudah cukup banyak ya. Kalau misalkan mencari itu kan banyak sekali alternatif gitu ya. Dan ya, maybe not just Indonesia, Malaysia also have abundance alternatif, Pak Khairul. Oke, ada lagi yang lain? Tanya?